Indian subcontinent has been home to cities and towns of different size since antiquity. But the history about urban settlements in this subcontinent isn't a continuous one. It contains disjunctions. Western historians have generally categorized Indian civilization as a rural one. Although India is now home to more than 12,000 urban settlements. In 1915, Sir Patrick Gates started his pioneering work on the historiography of Indian urban settlements from a sociological point of view in the University of Bombay. Post-independence, renowned scholars of geography and sociology have ventured into this field. Several questions have been raised. What is the relationship between an urban settlement and its hinterland? Where is the center of an urban settlement? How is it aligned? The answers to these questions can give us more insight into the rise and fall of Indian urban settlements.
We have seen earlier that the morphology of the Indian city is to a great extent dependent on the fort and the river. And there were certain external and internal influences which changed the morphology to a great extent, depending on the size of the city and so on and so forth. Today, we shall see an example of the first capital city of the Mughals, Agra. Now, Agra has been a capital for a fairly long time because it was founded in 1505 by Sikandar Lodi, and then it continued under Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir and part of Shah Jahan's reign. So therefore, it has a very long and checkered career. It is well documented in the sense that most of the European travelers of the period of late 16th to 17th century had been there and had described it fully. Unfortunately, there are not many indigenous sources on Agra. There are certain ghazals of a Hindu poet, but these are more or less poetic exaggerations, one might say. So we depend on this. Sikandar changed the capital from Delhi to Agra for reasons not clear. It is stated that he wanted to have a look at Rajputana properly from Agra. To my mind, there were other reasons which we cannot discuss here in full, but it seems to me that after the invasion of Taimur-Long, who plundered Delhi, and after the problems coming out in the political life of the empire of the Sultanate, the problem of this big city like Delhi, with its overland trade with Central Asia, cut off. This problem of a great city, a capital city like Delhi, becomes far more acute, with agricultural production less and less and so on and so forth, with part of the provinces going away without any revenue, etc. We need not go into the details of that. We see that in Agra, it is stated that Sikandar had constructed some buildings. Unfortunately, nothing has remained so far, nothing has been found. And it was only when Babur had sent, after the Battle of Panipat in 1526, Babur had sent his son Humayun to Agra, and he came over. Then certain buildings had started. One of the most important buildings was not at Agra itself, but on the opposite bank in Sikandra, where he had built an underground palace and a very beautiful garden called Shaharbagh. But Agra city still continues in a most elementary form, one might say, because at the end of the 16th century, the traveler Ralph Fitch, who visited it, didn't find it particularly interesting. But by that time, the complexity of Agra had changed. Akbar had constructed a fort, which was completed in 1565, and it had cost him between 25 lakh rupees to 35 lakh rupees, which is a huge sum compared to almost the budget of a province. Now, this fort, naturally, forms the nucleus of the city itself. And Akbar had made a plan of the city. He had constructed a wall, although the later traveler said that there was no wall, but the Archaeological Survey of India had excavated in 1871 and found the remains of the wall. So walls were there. And then he constructed the city with two straight parallel roads, each one of nearly 30 feet wide, which is quite large in those days. The growth of the city of Agra in the 16th century was fairly rapid. And that is why it is a little bit doubtful to accept of Ralph Fitch's exclamation that there is no good house at Agra. That is certainly not true, because by that time we know that the entire right side of the fort is on the bank of the Yamuna, on the right side of the fort and on the left side of the fort had been taken over by the nobles. Even Raja Man Singh was very close to Akbar. He could not find a place for his residence and he had to build one inside the city, which still stands. Not only he, but there were certain others also. I mean, there is no question of Hindu-Muslim question involved. There were other Muslim nobles who built inside. Now, this rapid growth of the city in the 16th century created problems. Problem of morphology, problem of the city, problem of administration. The principal problem is that the people coming regularly could not find any residential place to stay. There were a huge number of sarais, sarai khana. Some of them were excellent, but even those were full. And people were living in tents. Shopkeepers were sleeping in the shops lined up on both sides of the streets in the usual Mughal fashion. And the only result of this was that people began to break down the wall and began to settle. So gradually the wall vanished. Gradually the plan that Akbar had made, that disappeared. And the city began to grow pell-mell, haphazard, without any kind of a plan, without any symmetry, without anything. And it is no wonder, therefore, that when the travelers of the 17th century, particularly Bernier, who came mid-17th century, they found that the city is very big, bigger than Delhi. City is full of many good houses, but the city has no plan, it has no symmetry, it has no straight street things like all these kind of, the entire European attitude of urbanization comes into focus in the mid-17th century. Now, leaving that apart, the growth of Agra is also connected, as I have said before, with the hinterland, with the suburbs. And this time the suburb was Sikandra, 3 miles long and 2 miles wide. This was the wholesale market. We normally think Sikandra of the mausoleum of Itmad-ud-Dawla. There was a palace of Nur Jahan also. The underground palace of Babur, which has been excavated recently by the Archaeological Survey of India. At Sikandra, there was the principal wholesale depot of corn and other provisions which used to come from outside. Then these are carried by retail dealers inside the city into various markets. This was the model that was followed also in Delhi later on, as we shall see. But Sikandra is therefore and forms an integral part of the morphology because it depends on the kind of goods which are coming. The rice, for example, is going to a different place in Agra rather than corn or vegetables and so on and so forth. The territorial area, if we call it, has been differently given by the contemporary writers. Abul Fazl said it is 10 miles long all along the bank of the Jamuna. That is, it is rather long than broad. Other European travelers, some had estimated it to be 7 miles, some had estimated 12 miles, but there is no constant uniform figure. If we take even of 10 miles, we see that during the time of Shah Jahan, the early part of Shah Jahan's reign, this city was expanding in the north and the west very, very rapidly. Once again, there was no question of the wall. The Jamuna was there. People were trying to go towards the Jamuna, but they are not finding it. And therefore, there was the question of the problem of the water supply. And this water supply was not solved in case of Agra. This was later solved in case of Delhi. When we come to the 18th century, up to 1750s, we see Agra was more or less running on the same condition. Some said its population was about 3 lakh people. Others point out it is more than 5. Nobody knows because there has been no census in such a way. But the fact remains that it's a very populous, very congested city with chowks, that is the maidan, small maidans and shops almost in every mahalla, streets converted into markets, and it is very difficult to return home in the evening because the shops are almost on the streets themselves. So the fact remains that it is becoming a very congested city, full of hammams, sometimes free, sometimes not, full of mosques, madrasas, and so on and so forth. It was a city which is almost like a Persian city. Persian is spoken, Persian nobles are there. The structure of the city is almost like a Persian. Now, when in the 1774-6, a French traveler came, Count of Modav, to Agra, he saw that it's being destroyed. Most of the buildings on the outlying areas are destroyed. Only some buildings of the Baparis, that is the merchants, rich merchants, they are still there, but not in a good condition. He said that there were underground drain pipes for taking bad water to the river, and that is being choked now. Now, it is very clear that with the departure, as I said, with the departure of the court, the city has been difficult to live in. Now, the court has gone long back, at least 150 years before. So therefore, the departure of the court cannot be the reason of the destruction of the city. It lies elsewhere. There are political and other reasons with which we do not go. why did Shah Jahan change from Agra to new place, not the old Delhi, which is about 6 miles distant, but the new Delhi on the bank of the Jamuna? It's not very clear, but it has been stated by the contemporary Persian writers that's it because of the congestion of the city of Agra. Whatever the reason, Shah Jahan ordered Ustad Hamid Khan of Persia to do this job. And after 10 years, from 1639 to 1648, nearly 9 years, Ustad Hamid Khan produced this plan and produced the city itself. City meaning, of course, the palace and the fort. But the land was given to the nobles free. They were not sold. Now, in 1648, 19th April, Shah Jahan entered the palace of Shah Jahanabad through, from Agra, through the door on the river, a small one. It is according to the astrologers that he had done so. And since then, Delhi had remained the capital with some breaks, of course. Now, Shah Jahanabad, it is entirely walled city, 3.8 miles long total. And it had, once again, the fort on the bank of the river, the palace fort. And this palace itself, this fort itself, is a city by itself. Once again, like that of Agra, it has all the elements of the city: mosques, markets, hammams, troops, clerks, banyans, etc. and etc. The city grew very, very quickly, and once again, there is the question of the suburbs. Here, the suburbs across the river, just like that of Agra, across the river, Paharganj area and other areas where the dealers, wholesale dealers used to come and bring this. Delhi always had such a kind of a market, not there, but in other areas, the old Delhi, where this wholesale market was located. Even the market of the slaves and the animals were located. It had an excellent, the Sultanate Delhi had an excellent trade relation overland with Central Asia. In case of Mughal India, that overland trade was there, but it was not very important. Far more important were these linkages with the provinces and linkages with Surat. There was a direct route which goes through Burhanpur, through another route through Rajasthan. So there were linkages with the ports, and this is very important in the sense that all the luxuries were coming in and being paid often in gold and silver rupees. The Delhi city, once again, Shah Jahanabad, once again starts from the fort itself. It is the usual fact. There were 3 main parallel streets. But what is important and what makes it different from that of Agra or Lahore is that this was a planned city, number 1, and this was done on the basis of a Hindu town planning system as well as with the Iranian system. This is what is known as the string of a bow system, along with the hand of the bowman in it. Also, it is planned in such a way that the Islamic concept of the city, that of a human being, the legs and hands constituted some portion. The Jama Masjid is the heart, and the fort, palace fort, is the head. So therefore, there were a combination of both the Iranian and the Hindu influence. And this could be seen very easily in case of Shahjahanabad. That is one, the streets are done in such a way that one is like a string and the other two join at the center in the fort of the palace and then goes away like the curve of a bow. And the hand of the bowman is also there. So this is totally different from that of Agra or Ahmedabad or Lahore, etc. There is also another element in Delhi, and that element makes it once again different from that of Agra or Lahore. Shah Jahan had ordered the canals to be cut so that the water could come inside the city, although it is on the bank of the river. But the land is rather a bit high, and therefore the water of the river cannot be brought easily everywhere. It can be done in a palace through a Persian wheel, but to all other parts of the city, it's very difficult to do. So what he did is he ordered the Ali Mardan Khan to cut the canal, construct a canal from Hansi and Hisar, about 75 miles distant from Delhi, to bring the water through paved pipes into the city itself. Now once it comes into the city, it enters the city through Shahi Bagh garden, then it divides into two streams. One streams go to Chandni Chowk area. There was a huge reservoir in between the fort and Chandni Chowk. Now there is a road, but earlier it was a reservoir. And that water then goes through underground pipe to Faiz Bazaar and circulates in a roundabout way, continues to circulate. The other one, the Shahi Bagh garden, through the Shahi Bagh garden, it comes to the palace. It enters the palace near the Shah Burj on northwest corner, and then it's brought inside the palace by the Persian wheel, picked up, so to speak, and then it runs through the chambers of the palace, of all rooms, which are marbled. There is a canal, small canal, still can be seen, and it runs through, goes to the hammam in the fort. Then from there it comes out again, goes into the garden, and from the garden it circulates in 2-3 different places. Then from there it comes to the ditch, which is in front of the fort, and from there it comes to the Jamuna River, falls into the Jamuna River. Now what happens in the case of the other canal is that it goes to Chandni Chowk and then to Faiz Bazaar, that from there small streams of canal cut by the nobles most of the time at their expenses go inside the city itself. It goes into the hammams also. Now this water supply into the city itself is a kind of a novel and never done in India on such a scale. Water has been gone into the fort, into the palace, but into the city in such a way, there is only one example, one more example, and that was of Burhanpur, but that was also of a very small scale. The Delhi has, like Agra, so many gardens that often the foreign travelers had called it a conglomeration of villages. Actually, basing on such travelers, Max Weber in the 19th century wrote in his book, The City, that there is no city in Southeast Asia. Either it's a conglomeration of villages, combination of villages, or it's a military cantonment. Both these are, of course, not correct. So far as Delhi or Agra is concerned, we have all the process of civilization in both these cities. And one cannot state it like that. The huge buildings which are there, some of which are uh, six floor, where Hindu Banyas used to live at one time. By the middle of the 18th century, Delhi is falling into ruins because the political situation, most of the political situation, and Shah Alam's in the second half of the 18th century, it is stated that his empire is from Delhi to Palam. That famous couplet of Amir Khosrow, which was there in the Vanyam, that is all, of course, almost forgotten. Now, these areas which were supplying revenue products to the palace, to the city, these areas are taken over by either by the Jats or by the Marathas or by Afghans in most of the cases. As a result, Delhi has become very impoverished. And in 1776, when Count of Modaf came here, he found that most of the buildings had fallen down. The old city of Delhi, which was the city of Barnier, he had read Barnier, that city has vanished.